Welcome to this presentation, which takes a look at plans to protect wild salmon from higher river temperatures elevated by climate change. Climate change may mean that the days of fishing for salmon in freezing temperatures may become a thing of the past. However, those seeking a warmer fishing experience may now prefer to look to the south and choose to fly fish for salmon in Spanish rivers. Spain may not be the obvious choice to fish for Atlantic salmon, but the region of Asturias has 6 rivers where Atlantic salmon can be found. This northern region is greener than the rest of Spain, whilst the temperatures are extremely pleasant. Asturias is located on the northern coast of Spain, with rivers emptying into the Bay of Biscay. Asturias is about 1,200 kilometres south of Edinburgh, towards the southernmost limit of the Atlantic salmon's range. However, changes to the climate are bringing changes to Scotland's rivers. Back in 2018, BBC News reported that Scotland's rivers were basking in record temperatures. The River Gairn, a tributary of the River Dee in Aberdeenshire, recorded water temperatures of 27 degrees C and 25 degrees C in 2013 and 2014 respectively. There is concern that if the water temperatures are sustained above 30 degrees for several days, fish could die. The Edinburgh Evening Express reported that a conservation group, Fisheries Management Scotland, has called for action to protect Atlantic salmon in the River Dee due to rising water temperatures. Fisheries Management Scotland say that the worst effects of rising temperatures may still be years away, but action must be taken now. Dr. Alan Wells of Fisheries Management Scotland said that there is a universal agreement that we need widespread planting of native riverside trees to provide cooling shade. The Evening Express also reported that a northeastern conservation charity, the River Dee Trust, together with the support of the Dee District Salmon Fishery Board, is planning to plant 1 million trees at a cost of £5.5 million as part of a project to restore land lost 2,000 years ago. Conservationists told the newspaper that trees will help prevent a repetition of the high river temperatures which damaged young salmon stocks on the Upper Dee in 2018. The director of the River Dee said that the Atlantic salmon are now virtually extinct across the southern range and are fast vanishing in the south of England. All major Scottish salmon rivers have seen drastic declines. She said that we may have just 20 years to save the species. At the beginning of 2020, Fisheries Management Scotland held an event at the Scottish Parliament to highlight the plight of wild salmon. One of the speakers was Dr. John Armstrong of Marine Scotland Science, who highlighted that salmon like it cold and reinforced the message that trees act as living parasols shading river water. Dr. Armstrong particularly highlighted the work of the Scottish River Temperature Monitoring Network. The Scottish River Temperature Monitoring Network was established in 2014 to monitor the temperature in selected river systems. The network of data loggers is identified on the map, covering much of Scotland. The information collected has been developed into a model to predict future water temperature patterns in Scottish rivers. This map shows the maximum daily river temperatures for the hottest day between July 2015 and June 2016. The colours show the areas of most concern, with red being the highest temperatures and blue the lowest. What is surprising is that Sutherland appears to have been subject to the highest temperatures despite being one of the most northerly areas. Meanwhile, the northeast coast and central areas remain relatively unaffected. This map shows the areas considered for prioritised management on a scale of 1 to 9, according to the model, where 1 is the highest priority with a high river temperature and a high climate sensitivity, and 9 is the lowest. The area of highest priority remains in Sutherland around rivers such as the Brora, the Helmsdale and the Kyle of Sutherland. The Brora is in the heart of the areas of highest priority. One reason it may suffer higher temperatures is that the water is diverted from the upper river to the nearby Shin system. The River Brora rises to the east of Loch Shin and flows in a southeastward direction for 42 kilometres before entering the North Sea at a small town of the same name. For 7 kilometres of the length, the river widens to form Loch Brora. It can be seen from local weather recordings that summer temperatures typically peak at around 18 degrees C. The work of the River Temperature Monitoring Network and others has led to recommendations as to the best places to plant trees to gain maximum effect. According to Marine Scotland report, less tree cover is needed on southerly bank, whereas if a southerly bank is unavailable, then more overhanging tree cover is required. Not surprisingly, planting has the greatest effect on slower moving rivers. What is most surprising is that the area that is subject of a 5.5 million project to plant 1 million trees is not a high priority area. In fact, most of the system is relatively low priority, which might suggest that the driving force between this project could be greatly misplaced, and perhaps any money raised should be spent where planting is most needed. Fisheries Management Scotland have tweeted that native riverbank woodland also helps lock up carbon, provides bank stabilisation and habitat corridors for a wide range of native birds, animals and invertebrates. Given these additional benefits, it's puzzling that widespread tree planting has only been recently advocated, and in connection with rising river temperatures. It seems that whilst catches of salmon remain good, there was little incentive to improve riverbank habitats. Now that salmon are threatened, tree planting has become a key strategy for the retention of viable and commercial salmon fisheries. The current air temperature profile for around the River Dee would indicate a maximum of about 18 degrees C, with lows around freezing. By comparison, this is the air temperature for Monaco on the River Minnow. The maximum temperature is around 25 degrees C, with a minimum of 5 degrees. The River Minnow runs along part of the border between Portugal and Spain and represents the southernmost limit of the range of Atlantic salmon. In common with other salmon rivers, the Minnow has seen significant declines in recent times. The main reasons given by local authorities are overfishing, poor regulated fisheries and barriers to migration. River temperature is not perceived to be a major threat, as researchers both in Portugal and Spain suggest that their salmon are better adapted to warmer waters. The wild Atlantic salmon are still viable at the southernmost part of their range is illustrated by the fact that researchers from the Galician authorities are participating in the International Smolt Track programme, in which smolts are tracked from a variety of European salmon rivers, including England, but not Scotland. In 2019, survival of smolts during their freshwater migration in the Minnow was about 50%. The Scottish River Temperature Monitoring Network have predicted changes in river temperature that would result from a 1-degree rise in air temperature. Over future years, salmon could well become adapted to higher river temperatures in line with the southernmost populations. After all, any changes are likely to be gradual and over longer periods of time. The director of the River Dee told the Edinburgh Evening News that at current rates we may have just 20 years to save the species. This graph shows the decline in the numbers of salmon returning to the coast since the 1970s. This highlights the real problem for wild salmon. It is all well and good worrying about what will happen to young fish growing in the river headwaters in 20 years' time, but unless action is taken now to address the wider questions of what's happening to wild salmon, such as those posed by some of the 12 other high-level pressures, there may well be no young salmon left in the upper reaches of the river for all those maturing trees to protect. Thank you very much for watching.